Call the meeting to order. This meeting may inadvertently cause a quorum of other county committees of the County Board of Supervisors. No business decisions of any other committee of the boards of supervisors will be conducted at this meeting. This meeting and all other meetings of the committee are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin statutes so that the citizenry may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of the meeting. Call the meeting to order and roll call. It looks like everybody's here. A motion to review and accept the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the previous meeting minutes of 6/27. Somebody make a motion to approve those.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I guess next we have correspondence.
We did not have any record of correspondence.
Correct.
We go to administrative department reports. Chris?
All right, so just a couple of updates. Just wanted, so facility, some staffing updates. Haley Nelson joined our team on the 18th. Haley will be filling Annette Speed's shoes as our one of our program assistants working with Amy. She will primarily, as she starts, will be working to support Penny Tank in the 4-H program. And then as we go, there may be some other responsibilities that come up primarily. Also, once we get the human development and relationships educator on board, they would be the primary support person for them as we get started. So we're welcoming. We welcome Haley. She did work in our office as a LTE casual, supporting Penny in the 4-H program. For about 8 months prior to the pandemic, and probably would have continued on, and then things kind of got thrown a little bit sideways. So it's great to welcome her back and have her on full time. So excited for that. The other update is that this morning, I just got some emails that the final, the approvals for the request to fill for the human development and relationships position went through. We got there's a number of things, but there's a series of approvals, and July is I should have known better. There is a lot of vacations, and so waiting for this person, and then when the next approval, then they're on vacation, you have to wait. So we did get pushed back, although I do think it might actually be, I don't want to say it's a blessing in disguise, but there may be some benefits. A couple articles that I read, HR related, that in summer months, especially during mid-June through mid-August, early, people are not seeking jobs quite as much when their kids are out of school, summer vacations. They want to they're more willing to stay with where they have, not as active as a job seeker. So hopefully it will be posted by the end of this week, a 3 to 4 week posting process. So we'll get into that mid to later part of August. So I will send, once the position is posted, I will send a note out to this committee, just so that you are both aware, and also if you have anybody in your personal or professional networks that you may want to forward that on to, then you are able to do that. So that is that's the update regarding there. One of the pieces of information I did, so I mentioned our facility, and prior to the meeting, and to let the committee know, there was a discussion about just general office safety procedures and awareness. We will be doing as an office team, just reviewing some of our safety procedures, severe weather, what to do if in the event of severe weather. We have some windows, so how to stay away from windows. What would we do if there was somebody who entered the building that had less than noble intentions? And walking through, finding out where either first aid kits and or AEDs and those types of things, what to do with our, with the phones, just to make sure, hey, to make sure you get to dispatch or anything, the appropriate place. I know it's not really something that I'm super proud of, but for example, I'm the reason in Dunn County that the dial out number is 8 and not 9, because in a 3-week period, I tried to do an outgoing call and ended up talking to a very polite dispatcher. But those types of things to make sure that we have those things that we can talk about. The other thing I know, I'm not saying it's proud, but at least there was one of those things that there was some welcome change. I mean, some folks were very happy because I wasn't the only one who'd ever done that before. One of the other things that I brought up is conversation and awareness with the staff. Mandy and Diane, Corporation Counsel has brought to just as department heads attention, and I brought attention to the group, talking about how to potentially interact with First Amendment auditors should they exercise their right to come into the space, and their specific right as far as the First Amendment is the newly clarified right to video, to create video in public spaces, and how in walking through and assessing in our office which are spaces that are considered public, and then the spaces that would be where our staff would have potentially private or confidential materials, or also other potentially private conversations, Zoom meetings, those types of things, and how to best label to meet any compliance needed, but then also just to be prepared if we do have individuals, because there are some rights that individuals do have rights, but there are also rights that our staff and employees also have to protect individuals and are the people that we work with, their privacy as well. So, and our own. So just we're working on that and talking through what that is. The other item I'd added, just some requested info related to the Extension Ag Educator position vacancy. So thank you for allowing Heidi to join last month and provide you an overview. At the end, there was a request for a couple pieces of information. I passed along a note to some other partner groups to connect with Dennis and provide them information, because it's one of those things where our role, it wouldn't be appropriate to convey another organization's groups what their position or what their feelings were, but I did provide contact information. So Dennis, you might get some contacts from individuals from some of the membership organizations in Waupaca County, as that would be the most appropriate for them to work with you. One of the things that Amy and Annette had done very well is to track, and I missed my beginning date because I resorted it in tracking the phone calls and some of the walk-in calls that have come in related to ag and horticulture. So in the period which I apologize, Amy, I didn't do the date sort. I have it by the category sort. I believe it was about an 8 or a 9 month period. Does that sound about right? So in a 9 month period, which does include going back into 2021, as we were starting to transition from our imbalanced COVID response to starting to get back into normal. So the record, most of the there were 170 requests in a 9-month period or pieces of information coming in, or requests for information, whether it be by phone or walk-in. And this also doesn't include any emails. We haven't dug out that data. Not as many emails as there are than this list. So 170 inquiries. The large bulk, probably close to 70 of them, were related to pesticide applicator training. And not saying that is a complete one-off, but last year in 2022, I should say not last year, but last year, 2021, December of 2021 was when there was a 3-year rollover where pesticide applicator licenses, so individuals that needed to get a certification in order for personal use or private use to purchase restricted use pesticides and herbicides, they need to keep current every 5 years. In 2020 and 2021, Department of Ag, Trade and Consumer Protection, who oversees that, rolled over those. They extended the expiration date, and then finally at the December of 2021, all of those exemptions or extensions were no longer extended, and so everyone who was due and the previous 2 years that were due for certification all needed to be certified in basically the spring or late winter, early spring of 2022. So there was a lot of questions about that. Not going to say that will go away, but it was a higher than average number of requests based on the higher than average number of individuals that needed to have their private certification renewed. So the other thing that about 40, by my count, 40 of the inquiries were related to horticulture and master gardeners. Those are still, we do have resources to help those individuals. It may not be a person as their primary point of contact, but we do have the Wisconsin Horticulture Extension Horticulture web resources that we can direct individuals to. Plus, they also have the Ask a Gardening question, in which they have an opportunity to click on a web link and submit their information, which can include pictures, so that they can get a diagnosis about a weed or a bug, or ask a gardening question. It's also possible for Amy and now Haley to be able to, if there is an individual that does not have computer access, for them to be able to walk through and enter their inquiry on their behalf, and then the team who provides those services can then contact that individual by phone. So that is something that we do have that is provided. There are the other balance. So the other 50 or 60 calls are related to general agriculture, farm management, crops, and some dairy. If we were to take out, I would say roughly half of the phone and walk-in inquiries were related to general agriculture, if we take out the abnormally high pesticide applicator requests. But that is something. So there is a piece, and I guess I'm going to go back to the pesticide applicator. So there is a part that Amy and Haley are able to help with the registration and directing individuals on how they're going to be able to get their certification. There is a transition from 2022, it's a transition year. 2023, instead of being conducted by local educators, there are actually going to be a small team that is going to go and spread out around the state and provide local workshops throughout parts of Wisconsin and provide that training, and not putting that not putting that responsibility on our regional crop educators or our existing, those that are in the county appointments. There will be opportunities for them to engage, but not be required to present the training. It will provide a little bit of consistency to that training. And there are some of those pesticide applicator questions that are more technical and would be in many cases referred to a regional crops educator. So at this point, any of those questions, Amy would refer, Amy and now Haley would refer them to the state web resources as a starting point, and then hopefully they would be able to connect with getting some information there. So
imagine that there's even more calls that aren't coming in because, you know, Greg's contacts know that he's not here anymore.
Right.
I would imagine that he probably dealt with more calls than this in a year.
Right. Yes, and yeah, you're correct. And we don't know what we don't know. So, and that would be something that, as much as I recognize, is something that is just, it is also it's also something that there just isn't a good way to be able to collect that information. Now, one of the things, if I would think, I would be able to, if I had just a little bit more time, to be able to go and lump some of the questions into some theme areas. And that would be where, if there was regional educators, that they could be able to view those. And then that would be part of a needs assessment. And they would be able to work and say, hey, this is a program that we might be able to provide more information, or a local workshop, and possibly bringing in, state specialists, research specialists. One of the things that I'm looking is there's different types of cropping systems are really popping up as alternatives, both alternative crops, but then just alternative systems of new cover crops or new forages, things that can be done to help with the soil, provide good feed for the cattle. But that's one of those pieces that kind of is popping up, and it's a kind of a bigger piece, or a pretty broad, so not necessarily even a specific, but that's one of the things that just popped out to me as I looked at. So that's we do keep tracking, and we'll continue to provide further updates to you regarding that as information comes into our office. But I just wanted to follow up with some of the information that was requested, and we'll continue to find more as it becomes available. So I just have any questions on that before I have one last item that I just wanted to share. Okay. One of the things, so I guess this is a small piece that Ken and Pete asked. So at the last meeting, Christy was here and presented the FoodWise annual agreement, and it was suggested to refer it and have a review by the Public Property Committee. One of the things that Christy had found out shortly after our meeting and before the Public Property Committee meeting, discovered that there is a new annual agreement form that is in process, and it's almost ready for release. So the recommendation from her supervisor, the statewide coordinator of the project, was pause if you can. Pause, and let's go through. We'll go through once the new updated item agreement is done. It is likely that it's especially so. Dick, you've done this a couple times. You've seen the annual contracted services agreement that has, and the others have last year as well, has some language regarding. They're trying to just make sure that the language is in alignment with each other, that it's not this one means one thing and one means the other, that it's all balanced. So it's actually a good thing, and it may be possible to be able to have both of those pieces put together through as a package and reviewed at once. So I think that's a good thing. It's efficient for, I think, all of us to be able to do that. One other last thing, some of you may know, it might be Dick, might be the one that might remember most, but so one of the, when we went into our new organizational structure with extension, were two individuals that had an assistant dean role, and their role was to serve as a liaison between our county units and our administrative units in our counties, and back and forth with state and trying to, and with Johnson Counties Association and all of those to make sure, just to have conversation. Matt Hansen is the assistant dean that has worked with what's called the South Zone. So Area 10 is the northernmost in the South Zone. We're the northernmost area in the South Zone. In fact, Shawano is in the North Zone, and we border up to Shawano. Portage County is in the South Zone. We border up there. But they had to draw a line somewhere, and it goes roughly from La Crosse to Green Bay. Is kind of how it is to balance out size and things like that. Matt Hansen is retiring, and he is going on to the next chapter in his professional career in September. So it is actually possible and fairly likely that they will have someone announce, and there will be a short period of transition time to be able to have a new assistant dean. That is someone that role is actually my direct supervisor, and also an individual that would, if anything, any comments, questions, concerns that I might not be able to answer on your behalf, he would be my first point of contact. So that role is one that is important, and it is one that I believe. Did you ever have a chance, Dick, to interact with Matt? Do you remember Matt? Okay.
Here once or twice, but it may have been even before.
It could be.
Yeah.
The other thing is that some of those who happen to attend the Wisconsin Counties Association meeting in the late summer, early fall, he is oftentimes at the extension booth and or part of workshops or teaching. So that role is a key common touching point amongst county and county government and county elected officials like yourselves, and at the state offices of extension. So I just that could potentially have some impact. It's a new individual, but in that role, but just wanted to give you an FYI that was something that was newly announced moving forward. Questions or comments?
Thanks for the info.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, I've concluded my portion.
Next we go on to educator reports. Jessica.
It should be good to share.
Okay, excellent, thank you. I'm just gonna, I launched a large program this week, and I just ran out of time to complete my report. So we're doing my written report is coming out now. It was not part of the packet. Yeah, let me quick share my screen. Today, I wanted to share more. I believe a while back, some of you may not have been here, but a while back, I invited a few community partners in to talk about what our work in transportation. I believe we had Holly from Make the Right Happen. I think that Tracy Ratsberg from Data Care may have been there, and then Adam Belcorelli with East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. Ooh, something happened. Zoom went away on my, well, I'm still here though. Oh, it's connecting. The wireless is not super great on my computer. So I'll just continue and not worry about this. So we've been working on this, frankly, when I really look back, East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, Make the Right Happen, and has been working on this for even longer. They've been responsible for developing the Winnebago Catch a Ride program. So that's a program that gets people to work among other places. It has rural service, so they have experience providing rural service, And, they've been really interested in expanding to Waupaca County for a while, in part because of what, they hear from, from people in the area. I'm back. And so there are a number of things that kind of happened at once. First of all, I want to point out that, Make the Right Happen started, so it's a program of Lutheran social services. And it's my understanding that it in part got started because Theta Care a long time ago, 15 years ago, did a comprehensive kind of community-based study where they realized that transportation was something that was really needed in the area and that it would have a ripple effect impact on people's lives. And so they Make the Right Happen got started. And that has been, very successful in Allegheny, Winnebago, and I think also Calumet counties. And I wanted to invite people here, but with planning a big program, I wanted to invite some of these partners here again, but with planning that big program, I just ran out of time and I didn't ask them in time for them to be here this morning, but I'll do my best to continue summarizing. So they started a long time ago, and for a while, East Central and Make the Right Happen has been interested in expanding to this area. I know for a while, they had been working with Jesse Cuff and the Veteran Service Office, because, Jesse and other veteran service officers, they know that there's a need among veterans for transportation services. And so there's been all these, East Central did a couple of studies, and we have this kind of mounting evidence that transportation is really important. So I'm going to try sharing now. There we are. Okay, so I guess we didn't really need this kind of a title slide, huh? Okay, so here's the worst looking timeline ever, and it's probably a little inaccurate, but I did my best to kind of put the pieces down because I wasn't involved until East Central and Make the Right Happen approached me. So in Waupaca County, there was a plunge back in 18 or 19, I think it was 2019, in New London. So a plunge, if you guys don't know, Theta Care does these in areas where they have community health action teams. So they've got a community health action team in Waupaca, they've got one in New London, and I think Shauna, wherever they've got a hospital, is where they have these teams. And they did a plunge. The chat team identified transportation as something that they needed to study. And a plunge is a one-day event where they take a deep dive, a plunge on the topic. And they determined, so what they ended up doing in this plunge, I was unfortunately able to participate. The only thing I was able to do was help them with their survey that they did. But what they ended up doing was they dropped people off at different points in the city and said, okay, make your way back to the meeting place. And of course, people are like, well, they pretty much had to walk, or they had to figure it out, right? And they had some really healthy discussions about that. So after that plunge, a committee formed in New London. I think it's just called the New London Transportation Committee. East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, Make the Right Happen, started to participate in those meetings. And then they came to me and asked if I could help them figure out a pre-strategic plan, or we're not even at the point yet where we can do a strategic plan, because that would involve needing more community partners, that would involve, more of what we don't have right now. And so I figured out with them what it was that they maybe needed right now. And that was really more of a communications type of plan where they needed to work out who they needed to get to know better and who they needed to be in contact with and what kinds of messaging they needed to put out there. They were really concerned with making sure that this effort was communicated properly, because what they were looking at putting out there was not just another service layered on top of all the other services. They were really looking at something I'll mention in a little bit, something called mobility as a service, mobility management, excuse me. And what that is is, taking a look at all of the already available services and not duplicating those services, but like helping people get to the right service. And so the problem, or I wouldn't say problem, the challenge that they've experienced in the past is that a lot of times people who already provide service can feel like you are trying to get in on their territory. And so they wanted to be very careful coming into a rural community with limited resources, that they weren't going to be seen as someone who was just trying to take over the world of transportation in the county. Because that's not it at all. The preference and the mode of operation for mobility management is to work with the already existing community services out there. So, as we went along, they gathered more data about the needs. They started connecting with employers. In particular, not a lot of employers track the reasons for their turnover, but Tyson does. And so we had some really solid evidence from at least one employer that that transportation was a significant issue for employers as well. And we knew that anecdotally, we knew that from other data that's out there, but we didn't have any local data, hard data, until Tyson started to share that with us. So we also knew that it led to, I have numbers somewhere on this, but it leads to significant wages loss. When someone loses their job in the first 3 months, it leads to significant wage losses for them, and then of course significant cost to the company to replace that person. And so we were able to learn a lot from them and from all of the partners at the table. And if you can, maybe you can't really see that very well, but on the bottom part of that postcard, by the way, Amy designed this postcard, thank you, Amy. The bottom part of the postcard on the right, you can see a bunch of logos, including Waupaca County's. That was the kind of beginning, at the beginning, those were all of the people that were involved. So we had CAP Services, Mission of Hope House, Extension, Waupaca County, City of New London, GWAR, which is the Greater Wisconsin Aging something. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to our representative from GWAR. East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, Theta Care, and the Community Foundation. Because we have received some other grants, or I shouldn't say we, the effort, Make the Right Happen, have received some other grants, one of them from the Community Foundation. This kind of an effort, this more community, broad-based community effort, takes a lot more time and effort than just coming in with a service and providing that service, right? That still takes a lot of money, and it still takes time and effort. But when you're trying to build from the ground up, you're trying to build support, and you're trying to build a collaborative effort. This is not just meant to be an organization coming in to, hey, we can provide this service. We've got all kinds of experience. Just, let us do it. Trust us to do it. We'll build that trust with you. No, it's actually more of a collaborative effort than that. And it's partly because they are looking at not duplicating services, but to coordinate the services. So all of this led to, back in, I think it might have been March, we had heard about a proposal that we could, a grant that we could apply for. And I think when we heard about it, we had about just a few weeks to, I don't know, maybe four or 5 weeks to apply. You could apply for up to $10 million. And Tracy got together powerhouse group of people, and we looked at each other and we're like, we have to decide today, we're either doing this or we're not doing it. And we decided to go for it. So, this is just the guiding question. When I first started working with Holly, and Holly's with Make the Right Happen, and Nick Musson, who was with East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. This was the guiding question. This is really just to illustrate that this is about uniting a community to work together to provide transportation services. It's not about trying to get trying to get a service done in the community. It's about uniting everyone to decide that this is important enough to work on together. Okay, so how we're addressing it is I mentioned mobility management. This is just another quick slide about like what mobility management takes. Obviously, each one of these boxes, there's a lot within it, but obviously the community outreach and engagement, it requires needs assessment and program design that we've already been doing a lot of work on. We've already been doing a lot of work on community outreach and engagement. It involves pretty extensive program evaluation and assessment, and of course, funding. As you can imagine, rural transportation isn't cheap. I mean, transportation in general isn't cheap. I used to sit on the transportation 5-year plan committee for Valley Transit. And, you know, it's not cheap to provide transportation, and it's really needed service on whether you're rural or urban. So really quickly, the grant, it's not change it up there. Maybe I'll just, there we go. So we did get the grant. It's $3.2 million over 3 years. Waupaca County Economic Development Corporation is the administrative lead. And in that photo way over at the right is Holly Keenan. She is with Make the Ride Happen. And then you've got Ginger from the city of New London. She's at the
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec. Thank you, Parks and Rec. Ryan Brown, and there's the governor, me, Jeff McCorsky, New London mayor, cannot think of his name right now, sorry, mayor. And April with the chamber.
I can't either right now.
I know. You know, Mark? Okay, Mayor Mark. That's right. People call him Mayor Mark.
Mayor Mark.
Yeah, okay. So, oh, I lost service again. It's okay. I'll just quick tell you, because I didn't have, after that, it was really going to be the photo because I didn't want to put up a slide with a whole bunch of words. So I just wanted to share with you a little bit about what we're going to be using that money on. In 2022, there's going to be some equipment purchase and training. We don't have all the details on what the equipment purchase is going to be, but I know part of this plan is to actually offer a micro transit service that has paid drivers. So not in the past, we were only looking at a volunteer service, and then we were looking at trying to partner with taxi companies to help us make this happen. And now we're looking at actually having some vehicles with some paid drivers. It won't be a lot. It's not like you're not going to see a bus that I know of. You're not going to see a bus in New London, I don't think. But the equipment purchase and training, establishing a community mobility leadership circle, which really is probably going to be the existing committee, like New London Transportation Committee. That's where we're starting. The intent, though, isn't to keep it in New London. We actually made it, when we talked about it in the grant, we talked about Waupaca County, and we were able to get letters of support from, you know, the city of, from a number of the cities and communities in Waupaca County. So our intent is to start in New London because that's where the momentum is right now. Clintonville's interested, Waupaca's interested, Manimal is interested, and it's not just those centers, you know, as I understand it, we had some support from other more rural towns and stuff as well. But we will also be this year working on project branding and the logistics of launching microtransit service with paid drivers, right? There's not just the equipment purchase, but then we got to hire some drivers and figure out the logistics of how it's going to work. And then, of course, recruiting and managing still a volunteer service that hasn't gone away. We're still going to maintain that idea. So in 2023, we are going to continue expanding outreach to employers. We've already started. The Chaplain Carey at Tyson Foods has kind of taken the lead on convening employers in the area so that we can get some more information from them. And we are going to continue expanding that outreach to employers next year. And we're going to expand microtransit and volunteer ride services. And we're going to start next year, we're going to start sharing some of our lessons learned and the impact of this program across the state. 2024, We are going to, that, of course, that mobility leadership circle is gonna continue all throughout. And we're gonna start identifying, some research journals for establishing a body of knowledge of rural transportation, because when, we looked, there wasn't much out there at all. And, when we put this application forward, we put it forward as, a potential to be a replicable model for other rural counties to be able to follow. And so we also promise, that's why we're promising to share what we're learning with other people. So, and again, we're gonna continue expanding outreach to employers and expanding service. This, I forgot to mention that I think that in year 1, I may have missed this. Or it might be in year 2. There's going to be, this also involves, some pretty high-tech logistics kind of stuff. It's one of the reasons for the cost, but it also makes it a lot easier to run. I'm not seeing, must not have typed it, I'm sorry. That's gonna happen fairly early, like there's a program called Phoenix Mobility Rising. They helped us write the grant even, and we would be working with them to, I say we, I am part of the group for sure. I feel like I'm more supporting the group than a we in the group, but yes, we will be working with Phoenix Mobility Rising, I believe, to get the app and the logistics software going so that we can make this happen fast. So. Any questions? That was a lot.
So are you? One of the problems I see is we have a lot of lower income people in Waupaca County, and trying to get to work is a huge hurdle. But also, how do you get the kids to daycare? Is that gonna be incorporated into that? Because I see that as a meshing really well.
Yeah.
With that type of program.
That's a really good question, and I can't answer for sure, but that keeps coming up, and I do know that there's some other considerations when you're looking at transporting kids. But I don't know that it would be off the table. I just don't know. I don't know, but I definitely can bring an update for you on that question. I need to write that down.
No, I think that's a really valid point, because in our work, we would work with families with young children, and that is definitely a barrier that we hear. I mean, you know, not to bring in another subject, but the cost of daycare in itself, but then getting their children to daycare, getting to work.
And that's kind of what I'm looking at. We have the ARPA funds and there's people working on that. So if we can get that money to integrate with all those programs. I was lucky enough to have a huge family. So when I was going to school and working 12-hour shifts, I had family to watch my kids. But if we're trying to attract people to Waupaca County, you don't bring grandma and grandpa with you.
Yeah.
And so that's a hurdle. If we can offer those types of things, I think it would benefit the whole county.
Yeah, and unless school is in session, they have transportation through the busing system, and then also programs like Head Start offer transportation, but you know, the smaller daycares.
So this program, something that could work with the schools and extend their resources to help with that? Or?
I think that's a really good question, and I don't know like what's involved with transporting kids, but I would assume that there's like more stuff, but it doesn't mean that this program would say no to that. I just don't. Yeah, I don't know. Camera. I'm actually just gonna grab it. That's fine. You know,
Or I'll just keep asking.
no, I like this. Just let's say transport kids.
And I think when school is in session, depending, because my husband drives bus, depending on where the kids go, the buses already drop kids off at certain daycares, and the babysitter, like there's a separate form you have to fill out
Okay.
as a parent,
Right.
where you want your child picked up or dropped off. And but I think the bus garage will also say they need drivers
Yeah.
to be able
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
drive
We know
kids.
that.
Yeah, but, you know, and I think almost a bigger challenge, is kids who are in town that don't, like, not, a bus doesn't pick every student up, you know, if you live close enough to the school, but, I don't know, yeah, I mean, it's just something you have to talk with them about, but,
Well,
I know there's some parents in the summer that live in the country that could use help getting their kids to all of the things that.
I
the,
wonder who that might be.
Twice a day volleyball practice in the middle of the day when you live in the country is not easy.
and your household, do you have two vehicles, like one for each of the adults? in the
Yes.
house? Okay, so think about this, in New London and the surrounding rural areas, the percentage of households with, yes, I'm reading this, the percentage of households with fewer vehicles than workers ranges from 7.9% to 13.1% of households have fewer vehicles than workers. In the Waupaca and Clinkville area, it's just over 11%. So when you compare that though to the rural areas of Winnebago and Allegheny counties, which are Wisconsin County, Waupaca County's largest workforce trade partners, the numbers are as low as 1.3%. So let me compare, I'll just explain that more succinctly. So in Winnebago and Allegheny counties and some of the rural areas, the percentage of households that have fewer vehicles than workers is a 1.3%. I think somewhere a little more, somewhere a little less. In Waupaca County, in the area we're looking at, 7.9 to 13.1% of households, depending on which of the districts you were in, have fewer vehicles than workers. So it sounds small when you say it's only 13.1%, but when you compare that to our neighbors to the south, and our biggest workforce trade partners, and it's only 1.3%, that's a huge difference. So it means that people either have to share a car or they have to jockey around and figure out who's gonna take the car today and who's gonna carpool that day. And oops, my carpool person or my friend is now unavailable, they're sick or whatever that is. That is one thing that they discovered over the pandemic too, is that the ways that people used to rely on transportation have become less reliable. Even before the pandemic, they were not super reliable, but now it's become even less reliable.
And if you have a vehicle failure
Yes,
in Waupaca County, odds are nobody has a ride.
right. No, you're right, right. It's funny, I just made an appointment with my mechanic. And what's really funny is, I don't know how this happened. I thought I wasn't gonna get in for a while. I made it for 2 weeks out and he's like, wow, I don't really make appointments for that far out. So he's available. I can give someone his number if they want.
Well, we might need that. We have deer damage, we can't get in until December.
Oh my gosh. So any other questions?
Yeah, how long do you think you'll be focusing on New London? Because I know like at the Foundry, they partnered with someone that bought the Norseman House Motel. And all the workers are living in that motel, but I don't know if they all have cars. So I was just curious. And I know Foundry is working with that group of people so that they kind of all work the same shift to keep them, but I'm just curious how long before we can expand. I know we haven't
Yeah.
even started it yet,
Yeah.
but,
I wrote that question down because I don't know the answer to that, but I know that we were in touch with the Foundry, someone on the team was in touch with the Foundry, and the Foundry wrote a letter of support for this. Like, we are looking at trying to pull in more employers, because the more connections we can have like that, the easier it'll be for us to decide where we go next. So.
You almost wonder too if a ride service through work would be something that could evolve.
yeah, I think Krause Publications used to do that. They had a lot of employees from Appleton. And they kind of worked within their company to carpool them over.
You know, one of the things, and I guess I've already highlighted how important this is, but when employees do stuff like that, it makes a huge difference because thinking back to some of Tyson's information where they shared that, they found that if employees can stay for like that first 6 months, then they're able to often buy a vehicle on their own, like after that. And so, but when you're losing them before 3 months is up, partly due to, I think it was up to, I might be wrong here, but almost 30% of people who leave in the first, I might be wrong about the number, but it's a high number.
Because they can't get there.
Because they can't get there reliably.
Or pay for gas.
Yeah,
So if the county provides additional funding through the ARPA, would that help expand quickly? I mean, if we gotta find out if it works.
Right.
yeah, I know, that's the thing.
You know, so with throwing more money at it, basically, would that, I don't know if that would speed the process up or not.
I don't know. Because, like, when we first put in that proposal for this transportation project, I mean, the proposal that we put into the county ARPA funds, we didn't know about this other grant. And so, what we put in for the county was much smaller than $3.2 million because, we were doing what we could with, you know, the funding we felt like would be available. So I think that's a good question, like how, if it would help, how would it help? And would it really, would it accelerate anything or would things just happen at the same pace, in which case maybe it would?
We basically have the same 3 years to work with,
Yeah,
so. I want that money to be used to help the county grow, you know, so that's what we need. So
I can follow up with you all a little bit later today, probably with the answer to some of these questions, including that one, of course.
I'll throw money at it. I need to have somebody tell me, yeah, we
It's
can
like,
get
with that-
3 more vehicles, or we can,
Or we can for sure, like we can hire people right now. Or we can
Yeah.
like, because right now they've got a part-time person who, through some grant funding, we were able to hire a part-time person who's just been concentrating on relationships in the New London area. But maybe we'd be able to increase that capacity for us to get those partnerships faster, to work with the employers, faster. But I'll get back to you.
because the drivers, school bus drivers are making around $20 an hour. And they're still having a hard time finding people to drive. And if I would like to see it, be a collaborative thing, so we're not stealing bus drivers from
Right.
schools.
Yeah.
No,
Uh,
that's a good point.
And the different school districts are very different.
Yeah.
Because some are private and some are
Somewhere
Through-
by a different
Yeah.
Cobuson and they're all lamers, right?
I heard an ad for them on the way here.
Yep,
Each district is a little different.
Right.
London pays around 20, Thorntonville, because they're a bigger district, they pay around 22 or 23. So it's gonna be a tough market to crack.
Yeah. They were advertising starting at 17. So.
Thanks, everyone.
I want to thank you for that work that you're doing in that, Jessica, because it's a very common trend that we hear on our end. Transportation is a huge issue. People like access to food. Transportation is a main component of that. So I
Yeah,
just thank you very much for
Thank you
putting in that work.
so much. And now, since you brought that up, I just want to be really clear that we're calling it a workforce transportation initiative, and that's like the first priority, but we don't want to just get these people to work and from work. It's also about helping them meet their social needs, helping them meet their food needs, their medical needs. It's not just getting them to and from work, but that's like our first focus is getting people to and from work so that they have more income, so that they have steady income. Yeah, but we also want to do those other things. So.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Going on to number 8, outreach, education, or program reminders and announcements.
I just wanted to share on behalf of Christy. Christy submitted her report to you this morning. She has had an opportunity to take a couple days off, so. So, yeah, exactly.
Good time.
You can just see some of the, her report with food-wise efforts in all of the counties, well, specifically Waupaca County, but then some of the other, her coordinator role across the other counties, so.
And I would just share from my report that was sent out last week. Last Monday, we had a successful, it's day camp, but we hold it in the evening. It's because there's not a good name. So it was beach night. We had a beach theme last week. We have 40 campers that came from around the county, which was good. I think 7 of those were non-4-H members, which is one of the goals of that opportunity, is to have that open for people to learn about 4-H if they would like to. And we had a great number of older youth that wanted to be counselors and help out, and adults, and it was very hot, but it was good. And right now we're advertising, we're hoping to get enough people. We had an opportunity to bring one of our 4-H specialists from UW-Madison with a couple of professors that she works with to do a program at the fairgrounds next week for middle school age youth. And that's for any middle schoolers. We sent it out to counties around us. And we need to have 10 kids to do it. So I'm hoping we can get 10 kids. But they are bringing 2 experiments that the kids will be a part of with the professors, and looking at electromagnets and light refraction, like off of dark colors compared to light colors, and how that all works, and doing some fun projects with them. That's going to be at the fairgrounds next Wednesday if we have enough youth sign up. And that's something that really was possible. In our county budget, there was money for a summer assistant this summer, and Katie Lurkey has been working here. She started the 2nd week in June, and so she's an LTE as a 4-H summer intern, and so that was something that she was able to focus on, and also working with some of our youth in the dog project to have an opportunity for the younger kids to do Cloverbud Dog Project, where they bring a stuffed dog and learn how to show a dog like the older kids. And hopefully doing 2 partnerships with libraries yet this summer. And those are some things that Katie's able to do while, just having the capacity to do that, and some of those additional opportunities from what we could normally do with just me doing 4-H outreach. So, and then we of course have the county fair coming up the end of August, working on some of the pieces related to junior fair, and supporting the exhibitors and families and volunteers that work with the junior fair.
And I just wanted to take the opportunity to formally introduce myself. My name is Haley Struck, and I'm a food-wise nutrition educator. The few months that you guys have been new members, I've been out. I do face-to-face at the food pantry here in town. So that kind of depends on the month, but sometimes I'm there. So I haven't had an opportunity to meet you guys yet. So it's a pleasure.
Yeah, good to meet you.
Yes, you too.
Okay, if that's it, custom motion to adjourn.
Just please note, August 15th, it's 1 week earlier than normal. So just
And it's a
note the
different
minutes.
room, it says.
Yes, because this room is booked, so we're down in LL 42. So down-
Downstairs?
So I won't be here because it's my birthday that day.
Oh, you can bring cakes. I could. I could take the day off.
You could bring cookies on Friday and they would be here for Monday.
Way to think ahead.
What's the 15th fall on?
It's a Monday. It's still a Monday, still the same, the 9 o'clock start time. Just trying to get ahead of the fair. Apologize for derailing the adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
So, all in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.